Welcome to the Believe Again podcast. I am your host, Josh Robry. And after spending the last 10 years coaching and training pastors to start new churches through the Association of Related Churches, I wanted to bring a podcast to you this season that's going to help you relaunch, rebrand, or revitalize your church. And I'm very excited today to talk with my good friend, Pastor Marc of the Discover Church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Marc, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, and I'm just glad to be a part of this podcast episode and share our journey a little bit, man. But it's good to see you, my brother.
Well, you're my first two-time guest, so you get the back-to-back championship like the Kansas City Chiefs, which I know you're a big fan of because they beat your Eagles last year.
They did, and the defensive coordinator attends our church in the off season, so of course I love them. It's my second favorite team.
There we go. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have you on because you have such a unique story. And really, your story is relaunching a relaunch. So we've already had Jason Laird come on who has talked about starting over completely. So starting one church, merging it, and then starting over. We're going to have lots of different examples of relaunches and different things people can experience. But I'm really honored to have you, excited to have you. And I think you have a great story to tell with relaunching a relaunch. So let's talk about your first church before we get into all the great things that are happening with the Discover Church now, because I know you guys are just blowing and going right now. But take me back to, what was it like planning the first church?
Yeah, the first iteration of it, being in corporate America, I knew that God had a dream in our heart to plant a church, but we didn't know anything about ARC. We didn't know anything about planning churches, and historically, again, based on my experience, I know how to start stuff. I know how to build things, and so I was super excited. And so once we got the blessing from our pastors, we actually helped launch a church in South Jersey. I knew how to gather people. I knew how to connect people. I knew how to cast vision, and so and I had a supernatural love for the city, Philadelphia, and so we went and with I think we had $11,000. We had $11,000, and we had 27 people on our team, and we ended up launching West Park Church in 2016, and it really took us 3 years to actually get the church to 100 people. But I never felt good about it. Don't get me wrong, we had great people, but I never felt good about the church. We were in a very old building. It did not have air conditioning in it. So when it was in the summertime, it was hotter than fish grease, as we would say.
Oh, I
And
never heard that one.
yeah. And so what happened was in January 2019, as I'm kind of trying to find like the silver bullet, if I'm honest with you, I was really, trying to figure out like what's the formula, because we were doing everything spiritually. We're fasting, we're praying, we're doing everything, but it just really didn't reflect the church that I had in my heart. And so we started connecting with people like Wayne Francis, like Jimmy Rollins, like some of the other guys that were a part of ARC, and they kept telling us about ARC. And so in January 2019, during 21 days of prayer and fasting, that's when I believe I heard God tell me to close it and start over. And I'm gonna be honest, I was like, no way, like, because I was more concerned about what people were going to think and think I was a terrible leader. And then in March, we got a notice from the school district saying they were closing all of that. Like, that's how bad the school was, that the school district said we're closing all of the schools, this summer. So that was my second confirmation that we needed to do something. And I just remember I was in a meeting. I flew down. I met Pastor Dino in Nashville, and he told me to come to Birmingham. And I remember sharing my story there and sharing my story with you. And I think it was at that moment that Michael Smith called you that same day and was like, "Hey, man, this guy's good." And so at that point, it was a point of desperation for me, because I just wanted the training, because I was like, man, like, they have a process that work. ARC has a process that work. And so in 2019, we decided if we were approved by ARC, if ARC would allow us to go through the training, then, because I was pretty confident that, like I said, everything that we were doing spiritually, like, we were locked in. We just needed some practical application. And so I said to myself, either ARC is going to approve us or we're just not going to be church planners. And when you guys approved us, um, we felt like we had the formula that we needed to restart our church. So I remember when we got approved in May, we ran, we did our service we had a service in September, and then we told everybody, hey, we're closing this thing down, we're shutting this thing down, and we're going to start over and launch Discover Church in that following year. And I felt like we discovered who we were, and our church needed to reflect what was happening in our lives and what was happening in the life of our church. And so we closed it down. At that point in time, I had successfully grew it down to about 75 people. Most of them left, and we just ran an ARC playbook, and we built our team back up to about 75 adults. And in that 5 month period of time, we raised, prior to launch, we raised about $350,000, and we had so much momentum, and it was great. And then we went ahead and we actually moved literally just 3 miles. Like, it's a short job. So we just moved to a different building. The environment's beautiful. And when we launched on March 1st, 2020, we had 450 people that showed up on launch Sunday. It was diverse, ethnically, age, multi-generational. It really was the church of our dreams. And I know a lot of people thought that it was impossible for that to happen, particularly in the Northeast. But we certainly proved, or actually God certainly proved that, no, it's possible anywhere. So if you can do it here in Philadelphia, you can do it anywhere, man. So that was our story leading into launching Discover Church.
Well, I mean, that is amazing because you guys are in the city. You're in Philadelphia. You're, in the Northeast, and people are like, well, the ARC strategy doesn't work there. Well, it worked pretty good, and work well for Mark Poland at least.
For
And
sure.
I think a lot of times people want to blame a plan when something doesn't work out, but really the plan only works when you work the plan. And I think
100%.
for a lot of people that are looking to revitalize and relaunch, they're looking for, you use the term silver bullet, what's the one thing that I need to do that's going to turn this thing around because I'm doing so many things right. And I think a lot of times when I think of that, it comes to mind the difference between an A and an A plus, takes about as much work as the
Yeah.
work that it took you to get from a D to an A.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you're doing a lot of things right, but if you want this to be what you really got to do, I mean, it's going to take you working the plan, not just a new
Yeah.
plan. And
100%.
one part of your story you mentioned there that was pretty radical is that you shut it down. And you and I, we talked to a lot of people, and they have a smaller congregation, not less significant, but as far as like numerically, not as large, and they want to relaunch. They want to see their church become more vibrant to reach more people. And so they say, well, I don't want to stop meeting. But a lot of times that's what needs to happen whenever you're going to do a hard reset like you guys did.
Yeah.
And so what gave you the confidence that that was the right thing? And how did you handle those conversations with people and the fallout of not having a Sunday service?
Yeah, I think here's what I would say to people, is this, is that what we were doing wasn't working. And we had a little bit of money. We didn't spend it all. And so in the back of my mind, I always thought, I wonder if we spent, now again, it's $11,000. It probably, in the grand scheme of things, wouldn't have made any difference, but we were kind of reserved and we didn't do it. And we struggled. And so for us, I just made a decision, or we just made a decision, that we would rather go all in and do what works, ride on the experience of ARC, and do everything that we can and push all of our chips on the table, on the center of the table, and just go for it. And my thought was, I would rather just give everything that I possibly could and see that it works, rather than hold back and try to struggle for the rest of our lives trying to lead this church. And so, yes, it was a big risk. Yes, it was challenging. Yes, we had to answer some really hard questions. And some of the questions are like, why are we starting over? Or why are we moving to another neighborhood? Why are we trying to be more diverse? Why are we at like, so we had to answer all of those questions. And I was just honest with people and just said that, yes, we're doing all of those things. Yes, we're moving. Yes, we want to be more diverse. We are relaunching because we want the church to reflect the life-giving culture that we've created or that's happening in our church, and it requires us to do some different things. We shut everything down and we told people we understand that Sundays will not look like this anymore. And if you need help to identify or find another church, we will help you because we've got connections in the city. But we lost some people. They did not understand why we were doing it. Um, we thought 100 people was the magic number. We got to 100, but we still struggle. We still struggle to, be sustainable. My wife and I were still working full time. Many of our team members were working full time, so it just wasn't working. And like I said, if I'm honest with you, um, I didn't really invite people to our church because it was I didn't like it. I didn't love it.
I
I
mean,
wasn't
besides the
loving.
preaching, you didn't like it that much. The
Yeah,
preaching was
exactly.
great.
And it was all because of the environment. The environment. We didn't know anything about lights and haze and environments and anything, and, things like that. So it was pretty tough, and I can understand why people in our church didn't invite people. They were just they were faithful people, which I'm grateful for. But man, it was a hard season for us for sure.
Well, we might go into this a little bit more detail, but we did talk about it in great detail in the first podcast ever for the Believe
Yeah.
Again podcast. Your story of launching your church leading into COVID, but you guys, like you said, got great momentum. You've raised a lot of money. You got a great team. You launch, and then COVID hits, and you guys are not able to meet immediately. Which is just awful. But I wanted to talk about that because I think what's happening, we're in 2024 while we're recording this, and I'm still talking to pastors who got the wind knocked out of them, and they are hanging in there. They have not quit, but since COVID, they have still struggled to get back on track. And I know delay has been part of your story.
Sure.
You started your church, and then if you just count that between coming to ARC, there was a delay. Then once you came to ARC, you actually delayed again, pushing the start of Discover Church back. Then you start, and then it's like, no, I can't even meet. There is a delay from that. And then you're able to start meeting, but you're not meeting back with the 450 people that were there before. It's a whole new world. And so, help us walk through, like, what were you doing to keep the vision alive in your heart? What were you thinking about, like, hey, we're gonna have to relaunch this relaunch
Yeah.
basically, and bring us through that process to where you are today.
Yeah, I think that was probably the hardest season of my life personally, because we had so much success, and I remember questioning God and asking God, like, why would you have these people trust me? Why would we have raise all this money? Why would we spend all this money? For you to let this happen? And the biggest challenge is that because we launched on March 1st and everything shut down on March 12th. What happened for us is that we never really got the chance to dig roots with the people that came to church, and so it was like it was almost like losing a baby, and I hope that doesn't make if anybody's lost one. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but that's what it felt like. We birthed something and it died, and so Pennsylvania kind of mirrored California, so it was like 16 months of not meeting, so a year and a half just about, and so when we reopened, now we don't have the momentum, we don't have the money, and we don't have the people. And I just
Mm-hmm.
remember begging and praying, God, please let us reopen with half the people from launch, right? Why? Because we know the numbers, right? And so when we reopened with 125 people that November of 2022, I was like, this is a death sentence. And because I knew what the attrition was going to look like. And I remember in we reopened in November 2021, and so we were just kind of get our legs under us, and then in 2022 our lowest number was 54 people. I remember that Sunday, and I was like, I'm going to quit because
Mm-hmm.
it's a big difference again when you don't have the money, you don't have the momentum, you don't have the people. But I'm stubborn, and I just will not quit. I gotta die before I quit. And
Hmm.
so we just kept, so I just kept, and it was hard. It was hard for our team, and I just tried to do as much as I can to care for our team and serve our team and help our team and love our team and continue to tell them that, we've got a vision, we've got a mission. There was a season where every chance I got, I would show the pictures of what Launch Sunday looked like because in this huge auditorium, I would be like, look, I promise you, this is what God did. And eventually we're going to get back there. And so I
You would
just
share
had to
that on
figure,
Sunday morning?
oh, 100%. I would include it in our messages. I would, because I was trying to prove to people that no, like we have something here. God's going to do something. And then I really just had to get over that and just move forward. And so 2022, 2023, again, those were just very, very hard years. And I felt like we just uh, relaying the foundation of who we are and what I believe that God was doing in our heart, and so our giving started to creep up. People started attending more, and this year is the year that, like, so far in the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks of this year, not only has the momentum returned. So we've done a couple of things to kind of create the momentum, and now. We are, so the momentum, now we have resources now, and we have people now, and it's really changed the dynamics of our church. And so in the first 6 weeks we've doubled, and we're expecting a huge turnout for Easter, and it feels like what it felt like on Launch Sunday. And I think when I got away from thinking about the number of people and started focusing on the environment, I felt like it started changing and started shifting, and it's just been an amazing turnaround. And I think part of creating the momentum is the timing of how things are happening, and I certainly can talk about that if you'd like me to.
Yeah, I'm just also wondering about, we've talked every week,
Yeah,
since you launched basically, and we've been very fortunate enough for you to join the ARC team. You've been one of the greatest additions, ever,
thank
and we've become such good friends through working together. And but I've just heard the stories you've told, and there's some real pain that is associated with not having people there. It's not about numbers. It's like, no, we may not do worship this weekend because
Right,
there's not
yeah,
enough people there, which is some real things that people are dealing with that maybe they don't want to talk about. And people don't get on Instagram and talk about a Sunday
yeah,
where, they're like, well, we're going to play YouTube this week or not.
yeah.
And so can you go back to that pain point for just a second? Like, what were some of those moments and how did you lead through that and keep going?
Yeah, I think it for us, for me personally, because I wanted to create this field, create this environment, I really kept tinkering with it. And for us, we and this will probably get me in trouble, but I want to help people. We kept hiring people or adding people, and they were just like hired guns, and they weren't a part of our culture. And so we never ever really created the environment and the momentum that, or excuse me, the environment that we wanted and the culture that we wanted, because we didn't have people that were part of our community. And so we actually had to make a decision that we were no longer going to tolerate, this type of behavior. And so we made a hard decision, and we decided that we were not going to have people come into our church that weren't a part of our church that would be leading worship. And so we made that decision, and that was also hard because now we're playing videos, because I would prefer to be faithful to God and faithful to a standard. I would rather close knowing that I was faithful than to continue tinkering to keep messing this thing around and it be successful. And so we just played videos for from August to the end of December. I'm not going to lie, it was hard. It was difficult. I was watching our attendance numbers go like this. People were asking, what are we doing about worship? I was thinking, why do people want to come to church and get out of their bed and come home, come to church? They can watch videos at home. So, and you can't create that life-giving environment with worship videos. I don't care what anybody says. And so just being, and then I stopped it. There was, at this point, there's no strategy that we need to talk about anymore. And so I asked my team, my leadership team, I said, we're going to pray for three things. And I don't care about strategy. We're going to pray for three things. We're going to pray for people in our meetings. We're praying for people that God would send people to fill seats and fill slots. We got holes on our team. One of them was the worship director. We're going to pray for God's provision because we're going to have to pay for one, right? And then finally, we need the presence and the power of the Holy Spirit. So every time we got together, we prayed that prayer. And I'm telling you, in October, God sent us a person that is unbelievable, that's honoring, that loves my wife and I, loves our church and loves our vision. They started on January the first weekend in January. And then God sent another person. He and his family came up to be a part of our church. And now just recently, we've kind of commissioned him to run our Sunday, services or run our Sunday experiences. And it from January 7th to now, our church has doubled. We will never look back on those days again, but we had to make some hard decisions. We had to fight through it. And it's just been, again, it's been a long journey. It's been, a lot of delays, a lot of, hurt and pain, but we stuck with it and we trusted God, and those things are happening. So I encourage, anyone just to, make sure you have a plan and some standards that God has given you and hold fast to them. Because the moment that we let go, and I said, I'm not going to do it. And I tried to model, I tried to worship to those videos as hard as I could. I wanted to model it, but man, it was hard. And what a difference spirit-filled people make, man. It changes the game. And I just thank God for it, man.
Well, a lot of people talk about culture, but you made the tough choice that, hey, we might close the doors over culture. And I have so much respect for you for choosing that. And I think, what I think about your story is that a lot of times we get what we allow, what we ask for.
Yeah,
And if we say, hey, we're willing to settle for this, well, that's what you get. But
yeah,
if you say, hey, I'm not willing to settle for this, even though it's going to cost me something, eventually you'll get it. And
yeah.
you guys got that. And I'm, so happy for you to be experiencing this new season. And then I was thinking, man, you're really giving us a good 4 prayer points for people who want to relaunch. And that is, hey, 4 things you need to pray for. You need to pray for the seats to be filled with new people,
Yeah.
slots to be filled with leaders, the provision of God for what we need to do, and the presence of God to get it done. So we got 2 S's and 2 P's.
I love it.
And yeah, and we're gonna choose character and culture over, I don't know, I need 2 more C's.
Performance, man, over
Performance.
performance.
Yeah.
And one of the
Performance
things
and
that my
gifting.
wife would say to me, because we were asking, she would say, it's hard for you, it's hard for people to do what's not already in them. And, I didn't want to hear it at the time, but she was right. And let me just say this, I'm having so much fun now. I'm enjoying it so much. I love being around our team. It's the best feeling in the world, man. Just to see it working, it's incredible, man. And this year alone, again in the first 6 weeks, may not be a lot for anyone, but it's a lot for us. 73 people have made decisions for Christ so far this year,
That's
man.
amazing.
Like God is doing something in the Philadelphia region.
Well, praise God. I'm so excited for you. And I think that's a great point for us to end this conversation. Marc, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate, excuse me. Marc, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your wisdom, your friendship, your story. I know it's going to inspire so many people, and I know we're going to have you on another episode as well. So thank you so much. And I want to also thank excuse me, and I also want to thank our sponsor, Visit Planner. Visit Planner helps your church reach new people and help them plan visits by using strategic digital ads that will target people in your area that are looking for a new church and help you connect with them. They are run by amazing people who have a heart for the kingdom of God and want to help you. Go check them out at visitplanner.church. We're very grateful to work with them. We think they're a perfect fit for what we're trying to do, which is to help people revitalize, rebrand, and relaunch. They can help you do that. And if you're looking for some coaching, consulting, someone to come alongside you and help you for a season to get your church back on track, I'd love to help you. I've had the chance to do that the last few years with people reaching out asking for that, and now I want to make it available to more people. And everyone I meet with, I always bring in Marc Poland at least once to share his story and what he's done. He's always a great help. We have another person we bring in to help with fundraising. So if you're interested in getting some coaching and finding out more about that, I'd love to meet with you for free, see if we're a good fit. And you can email me at josh at believeagain.co. I want to thank you for joining us today. I can't wait for you to be. I want to thank you for joining us. I'll get this right. I want to thank you for joining us today, and I can't wait for you to be with us next time. Until then, keep believing and leading strong. Okay, great. Well, good job. That was 25 minutes.
Oh, no.